everybody, I'm Steve Paikin, and we want to welcome you to the Carleton Dominion Chalmers Centre here in the city of Ottawa. This special series of programs in the community with a live audience is called TVO Today Live, and it is generously supported by the Wilson Foundation, and it has a mission to explore the future of our democracy. Now, you might, at first blush, wonder about our choice of guest for that mission tonight. After all, her job is to make people laugh. And over the last many years, there has often been very little to laugh about. But through 7 seasons on her TV show Full Frontal, and as the longest-serving correspondent on The Daily Show, she has had a front row seat to arguably the most fascinating and terrifying exercise in democracy many of us have ever seen, and has reported on it in a uniquely wonderful way. And she will continue her work in a new podcast called Choice Words, and she's currently on tour with a new live show called Your Favorite Woman. And can I be parochial too? She's one of us. She's born in Toronto, she was educated at the University of Ottawa, and we are delighted to welcome her back to the province of Ontario. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Samantha Bee. That is pretty fabulous. That's pretty fabulous. Have a seat, Sam.
Thank you so much. This space has gravitas. I like that.
Do you remember Lou Waters on CNN?
Yeah.
Lou Waters, silver hair,
Yes.
very debonair-looking guy.
Uh-huh.
He once had a guest refer to gravitas about an
Yes.
issue, and Lou said, "No, I'm pretty sure that's pronounced gravitas."
Well, this place has gravitas.
There we go. There we go. Let me ask you a perfectly ridiculous question to get us started here.
Please do.
Where were you yesterday?
Where was I yesterday? I was in South Carolina, of all places.
How did you get here today?
I drove. I drive. Yes, I do.
You drove?
I do.
From
Yes.
there to
No, that I did not do. No, I flew from South Carolina. Is everybody interested in my travel itinerary? I flew from South Carolina to New York and New York to here. Yes.
But you drove from New York to here.
I did. It's not that far. It's not
How long
that
does it take?
wild. 6.5, 7 hours. I'm very committed. When TVO calls, I get in my car and I hit the accelerator. You understand?
I see.
Yes.
We're glad you made it.
Thank you so much. Are we playing the organ together later? We're doing a duet.
If you care to.
It's you, me, and Pokeroo. We're doing it.
I am, I hate to say it, almost a decade older than you.
No,
But
I don't believe you.
Please,
Okay.
continue. Please, continue. No.
Whoever's doing your work is fabulous. Very subtle. I love it.
I only raise that because, for me, late night meant Johnny Carson.
Sure.
How about for you?
Well, I wasn't allowed to watch late night. I didn't watch late night until The Daily Show, really, truly. Nobody, I grew up in the Johnny Carson years too, but it wasn't something that a little girl was terribly interested in, to be honest, not this little girl. And I didn't really become a dedicated watcher of late night programming until The Daily Show. And so my husband and I got married and we ended up buying a house, and we had a little dedicated room where we had a single television, and it was the only television show that we religiously watched. And no one else in Canada was really watching it at the time. It was not popular, but it was our thing. It was our ritual at 11 o'clock 4 nights a week. We would sit and watch The Daily Show. It made a huge impression on us.
Did you always want to work for that show when you were watching it?
Can I be honest? There was no world. It was such a world away. It was such a world apart from how I lived. It was so far from my world that it would not have even been a dream in my brain. Do you know what I mean? It just felt impossible. I just loved it for what it was. I actually just truly loved it because it was excellent and because it spoke to me, and never even really aspired to be on it. So when the opportunity came about, it felt impossible. It felt impossible, actually.
Let me follow up by asking you about the way in which you do your thing compared to
Yes.
the way Johnny Carson did his thing.
Sure, I
'Cause
can't imagine two different sets
Well-
of processes.
You've anticipated where I'm going next. Because, of course, Johnny's big thing
Yeah.
was making sure that nobody thought he was either liberal or conservative or
Sure.
Democrat or Republican or
Yeah.
had a particular view on any issue.
Yeah.
He wanted to just sort of appeal to everybody.
He was like, I need more cigarettes to smoke on the air.
Yes, yes, yes.
Somebody outfit me with some Marlboros, please, and some alcohol.
But he was an equal opportunity offender, and
Yeah.
you're kind of not. You've definitely planted your flag
I did.
offending one side over the other.
Sure.
How come?
Well, because there was so much to say. There's more to say. There's more to say on one side of things than the other, and I feel like, you know, when I started working at the Daily Show in 2003, and that was such a different time for that show. It actually was much. It was really a lot sillier. It was political, but not in every corner of the show, and we would go out and we would just interview people who had like wild inventions, like pants that had an extra pocket if your testicles were too large. Like, they were a lot of very whimsical pieces on that show as well. Or, you know, I did, one of my first pieces was about two penguins, like gay penguins who raised an egg together, and it was a controversial story that was just so fun and whimsical. And it became increasingly political as John's interests, you know, became increasingly political, and he kind of just turned the eye of the show in a more political direction, and we all came along because that was his editorial vision. And as, you know, in that kind of, in that training ground, we all just got more and more political. I always was a political person, but we were encouraged and permitted to go deeper and deeper into our point of view. So, you know, insofar as point of view became just like, it just became my guiding light. And when I had an opportunity to do my own show, I literally thought, sorry, I'm totally monologuing. I mean, you have all these great questions. I'm like, anyways, it's all about, no, but I mean, it felt like I would immediately lose my show. When I was given a political, topical comedy show, I thought, we'll have 6 episodes, that's it. So let's lean hard into it. Let's like kick open the barn doors. Let's just say everything we want to say before we get canceled, which we will immediately. But let's have a jewel box of 6 episodes that we can look back on and feel so proud and say all the things we want to say about this crazy world in 6 episodes.
Your plan failed.
It failed. It was failed, yes.
Because you lasted 7 years.
It absolutely lasted 7 years, and so point of view became just my focus. The whole show was point of view. The whole show was point of view, and that was very important to me, actually.
But I can imagine when George W. Bush was president,
Yes.
there was a lot of material there for you to work with,
So much.
obviously.
Yep, so much.
My hunch is you could not imagine how much more material you had waiting for you.
100%. And it, you know what? And the journey seemed like it was going to be so much more fun, because when we launched the show in 2016, we were right at it was debate season, and it was, the conventions were coming up, and all of these idiots were running around town saying the worst stuff, and Donald Trump coming down the escalator, and Ben Carson getting lost behind the, I remember when he got lost in the maze backstage, and he just ended up, there was a kind of this like labyrinth for him to get to stage, and he just ended up in one corner. Like, he couldn't find his way out, and he was just trapped by a curtain, and there was a camera there, and he was like, I don't know, I give up, I'm gonna stand here. And he just stood there, trapped. There was so much stuff to talk about and make fun of them for, the way that they eat corn dogs at the Iowa, you know what I mean? It's just, there's so much material. And then Donald Trump won. And that was the least funny thing that could have ever happened, truly.
Do you know why John decided to stop doing the show before Trump got elected?
Well, it didn't have anything to do with that. I think he had just done political comedy for 17 years, and you know, he...
But the motherlode was still to come.
The motherlode was still to come, but he would not have anticipated that. Nobody knew. I mean, nobody knew that it was I mean, I did say that he was going to win a few times over the course of the summer to people, and they were like, "You're so dumb." And I was like, "I'm worried." And they were like, "That can't happen." And then I forgot about it. But my husband, also from Hamilton, just like you,
Hear, hear.
said it the whole time. He said it to me the whole time. He was like, "You better get used to saying the words President Trump." And I was like, "You are crazy." And then it happened. So people from Hamilton know things. He's a very wise man.
I occasionally get very jealous of you because the program I do, I'm not allowed to say, for example,
Right.
that when Marjorie Taylor Greene says
Right.
there are fires happening in California because of Jewish space lasers,
Space lasers.
I'm not allowed to say, that's kind of a crazy thing to say.
Yeah.
But you are allowed to say that.
I am.
Do you think, I'm genuinely looking for advice here, do you think sort of legacy media, people who sort of try to play it straight in the media, should get a little closer to the way you do things and call out stuff like that?
I think it's very difficult, and I really do understand, I comprehend the problem that you're articulating here. It is very difficult when you are faced with someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene. It is very difficult to know what to do with her because she is in the government of the United States of America. And so there is a real push and pull. How much do you cover this absolute idiot? She's a maniac. I mean, I can
See,
say
I can't
that.
say
You
that.
can't say
I
that.
can't, no.
She's a real turnip, okay? And but she is a government figure, and so you kind of, I mean, there is this feeling of like, well, you have to cover her, but how do you cover her without platforming her terrible, toxic ideas that actually become meaningful to people and reverberate through the world? And it's very difficult in your position, and I feel for you, and I don't really know how you deal with that.
See, I think if I were to say what you just said,
Yeah.
the guy who came up here at the beginning to introduce everybody, he would be handing me my pink slip. I
Okay,
think that's
well,
a problem.
I'm here to
Yeah.
say all the things you can't say because because I don't have any professional credentials. I'm a fool. I'm
Well,
like
no. Now here's where I'm going to push back because you say you don't have any professional credentials.
right. It's true.
But I watched your show.
Okay.
Faithfully, full frontal.
What?
And I
This
did-
is delightful. I'm having the best night. This is so nice.
Totally true. And I got to thinking, you know, you would have been, had you chosen this path, you'd have been a superb journalist because your job, as you saw it, I guess, was not just to be funny, but to kind of make a point. You were speaking truth to power during the course of all this,
Right.
which is important in a democracy. Did you see your role that way?
I did not see my role that way because I don't think that you can do. I think that if you bring self-importance to comedy, then you cannot do comedy. Then you will cease to be funny, and you just can't think that way about yourself. What I could do is equip my toolbox with just the sharpest shivs in the world, because I hired journalists and former journalists and incredible researchers and incredible fact checkers. So I made my workplace a place of great minds and great collaborators and actual people with the credentials that I needed to, that I could draw upon to do the work that we do. So I was very scrupulous about making sure that everything was correct
That's journalism.
that it is journalism, but it's not me doing the journalism. I just need to be clear about what my role is, and I'm the clown who makes sex jokes about myself and says things that are meaningful.
I know, but I should let this go, but I'm not going to let this go.
Okay.
Because there was a point at which Jon Stewart, I think, got offered a job to be the anchor for one of the main network
I'm
newscasts.
sure. Yes, I'm sure.
Which, if you think about it, two things. I mean, it's kind of crazy that a guy who hosts a comedy show would be
Right.
offered Walter Cronkite's chair.
Sure.
Right? But on the other hand, the executives saw in what you all did some journalistic bona fides there.
Listen, is TVO hiring? Is that what we're talking about here? Because I lost my job. Okay. If this is a job offer, I accept.
Okay, Sam, you're messing with me here. All right. Do you think Republicans watch late night TV?
Oh, they do, but they watch Greg Gutfeld. They don't watch the other shows. You know, his show's doing very well. I don't think it's funny at all, but it is doing very well. No, I don't think that they watch. I see the role that we play, the role that I played in particular, I really can only speak to myself. I tried to create a catharsis for people who are like-minded, as opposed to really imagining some, again, it goes back to that idea of like feeling that you're very important or influential. I just don't. And I don't think that people watched my show to have their minds changed. I wasn't even really trying to do that. I was just trying to make a statement, to speak from the heart as much as possible, and to, as you said before, plant a flag in what I think is right and just. Because when you have a platform like that, for as long as I did, I feel like, for me, I just didn't want to waste it. I just didn't want to waste it and only do just dumb stuff and then end a comedy show having done nothing. I thought, if I can do anything, I would like to make my children proud of me. I'd like to park it in what I think is just, plant a flag in what I think is right, and then eventually the show will end, but I will always look back on that time and feel very proud and feel like when the aliens take over, actually it's not gonna be the aliens, when the Roombas take over, they're gonna watch the show and go, oh, you know what, she was right about that. She was ahead of her time on that one.
And do you feel that way, having done that for 7 years?
I feel very calm and centered when I think about the work that we did. I'm very proud of it, and the show ended, but I left it with no regrets at all. I feel like I did as good a job as I could have possibly done, and said as many things as I would have wanted to say, and so I feel like my hands are clean. Are there more things to say in the future? Oh, absolutely, but I feel clean on that. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's nice.
Did Democrats get a pass from Sam Bee on her show?
No, I don't think that they did, but I will say this. It's very, very tricky, actually, to have an audience that is largely made of largely Democratic audience, to be honest. Not that we were like tracking what political affiliations everyone had, so I really don't know, but I'm assuming it was a mostly Democratic crowd watching the show. And it is actually very tricky to grapple with issues and unpleasantries that exist within the Democratic machine, and there are many. There are many, many things to talk about, actually. And it's tricky with your audience, because they don't want to talk about it. Often they really don't want to have the lens turned on themselves or the lens turned back on the Democratic Party. It's something that I recognized at The Daily Show. We all recognized it. Anytime we did a piece that was critical of like Obama, it was
and you did.
And we did. And I did it on my show, and people did not like it, and they made it known that they did not like it, but there were things to criticize. And so we did it, but we did it carefully, and we had to be judicious about it. And because you can't totally bite the hand that feeds you. You can't completely alienate your audience. And so it is a difficult conversation. I mean, I think that all the shows are probably wrestling with it now. I think certainly the news is wrestling with it and will continue to wrestle with it over the course of the next presidential election. There are things that people would probably want to talk about Joe Biden, and it's very difficult because you really don't want to give the GOP and the powers that be, and you really don't want to give Donald Trump ammunition in his fight to win back the presidency. You really don't. And that is a real concern. I know people feel it. It's really hard to talk about, but it is real. And I'm not sure that we've all kind of figured out the contours of that exactly correctly, because they're not wrong. When you criticize the sitting administration, if you criticize the administration as it stands right now, you are giving ammunition to people who you don't like, people who you don't want to see in power, people who do want to take your rights away. You are giving them joy. We used to do stories sometimes on my show, and it would become a soundbite on Tucker Carlson. And let me tell you something, that was very painful. That is very painful, and I still think that it was right to do the stories that we did, but it was really not fun to have my segments shared enthusiastically with a certain segment of the population. It really bothered me. It was very, it's a bad feeling.
Well, since you mentioned Trump, let me follow up on that.
Sure.
Because
There's nothing to talk about when it comes to Donald Trump these days.
I'm going to go back, it's several years now, to
Okay.
when he was a guest on Jimmy Fallon's show, on The Tonight Show.
Yes.
And Jimmy did what I guess a talk show host on a comedy show
Sure.
late at night does, and that is he did shtick with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And he mussed his hair, and they told jokes together. And some people thought, Jimmy, you are normalizing
Right.
a guy who ought not to be normalized. And of course, other people thought, oh, isn't that cute? They're having fun
Sure.
together, and it's great TV.
Sure.
Where do you come down on all that?
It definitely didn't help matters that he was like a guest on CNN or on SNL. Like none of that really, nobody took him seriously at that time. Nobody took him seriously at that time. Not enough people took him seriously at that time. And I do remember a lot of conversations at my show about how bad that was. I didn't like it because we knew, because he is a dirtbag, and we knew that he had terrible ideas and racist ideas and destructive ideas. And again, it's about platforming. It's so dangerous to platform bad ideas.
So he shouldn't have done it?
I wouldn't have done it. I know, people love Jimmy, and I don't have anything against him. I wouldn't have done it. Of course I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do it because I didn't have as big a show, He wouldn't have come on my show. I wouldn't have invited him on my show. So there were a lot of things in play. It's hard for me to sit back and quarterback his show. I didn't like it at the time for sure. And I think probably he was under other pressures that were brought to bear on him.
We assume all you late night talk show hosts all know each other and hang out.
We don't know each other. I think maybe all of them hang out together, but not me. I wasn't invited.
So you've never talked to Jimmy about that segment?
I don't know Jimmy. I've never met him. I've never even met him once.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you want to meet him? We can get him up here next time.
He's here right now. Oh, here he comes. No, I've met a whole bunch of them, and they're completely lovely. But I don't know. We've just never crossed paths.
I want to get your opinion as well on another very iconic, famous, and ultimately problematic moment in comedy, supposed to be comedy, and that was Kathy Griffin's tweet in which she held the severed head of Donald Trump and told a joke on it, and she thought it was funny, and it kind of exploded in her face, and she ended up getting fired from a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
What'd you think of all that?
I thought it was so overblown. I mean, the amount that was overblown was, it was a catastrophe in her life, and it was so undeserved. It just was a moment. A photographer had a head laying around. She picked it up. It was nothing. When you are a woman in comedy, when you are a woman with a big platform in comedy, people will come for you at a level that is very, it wasn't a threat. She was literally investigated by the FBI. It was ridiculously overblown. It was catastrophically overblown. I don't know how else to. It made me angry. To be honest, it made me angry. People's reactions to it. It just became it was just a moment that everybody could get clicks from. It was not worthy of the amount of attention that it got, and it was not worthy to end her career. Did not end. She was able to continue. I don't know that there's a performer alive with more resilience than Kathy Griffin, to be perfectly honest with you.
But she lost a few years of her career.
She lost a few years of her career, and I think that was a really dark and scary time for her, and I think it was completely, the ratio was deeply off. There were many more things to be more concerned about than her doing a photograph with someone who had a random plastic head hanging around. It wasn't even supposed to be on the schedule. It was just like a moment in time.
I can or cannot ask you about the See You Next Tuesday episode.
Oh, you can ask me about the See You Next Tuesday episode.
Okay.
You can. Of course you can, yeah.
Because you did say on your show
I did.
to Ivanka Trump,
Am I looking in the camera? No, I know. Yeah.
do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
Yes,
See
I
You next
did.
Tuesday. He listens to you. What happened after you said that?
Well, I don't think he does listen to her. That's something that I learned. What happened to me is that, of course, I almost lost my job. It became a global news story. It literally became a global news story that I had said the C word on my show. People who I knew who were in Guatemala were like, "What did you say about Ivanka Trump?" Like, it went around the globe that a woman said a bad word about another woman on television. Again, the ratio of people's reactions to it, I feel, was completely off. I understand now, that there were members of my audience who were upset that I said that word on camera, even though I had honestly said it on the show probably 20 times leading up to that. It was really not new to me. It's a word I happen to love. It's a word that children say in the UK, okay? Let's be honest. The United States I love the United States. I'm a dual citizen of the United States and Canada, but the United States is quite puritanical, and they will only accept certain things from women, and that is not one that they will. And everybody had a real pearl-clutching moment over that in a way that was unbelievable to me. I learned a tremendous amount about who your friends are in the media, not that many, and I learned a lot about myself and my own level of resilience and what I am willing, and the fires that I am willing to walk through. By the way, I was right, and I don't take it back, and I should have called them all that.
Who stood by you?
My staff, my network, actually, the television network that I worked for, they were wonderful about it. They were terrified. They were terrified because, there are moments in time when you work in television that you can almost feel like you work in a bubble. You're surrounded by all these great people, you're having fun, you're doing hard work, you're grinding it out with all these amazing people in your office. And even the people at the network are great and they support you and they're like, "That was an awesome show." People at the network saw that episode. We taped it. It was live to tape. There were executives present in the room. When I had that moment, they were like, "That was awesome." I was like, "I know." But our television network was engaged in a big merger with parent companies that are worth billions and billions of these giant media machines, okay? I underwent 2 giant media mergers, but the first of which was AT&T purchasing that whole kind of group of networks, and so this merger was about to happen. And it became an issue that I said that word because it got everybody's attention at the highest levels of this gigantic media operation, this big behemoth cruise ship of media people who are quite conservative, who don't know anything about making a TV show and never would want to, but suddenly it's getting their attention on the precipice of this huge billions and billions of dollar purchase. And so it became my little thing became an issue in their world, and they wanted me gone. And it was the most incredible experience, kind of coming out of that bubble of operating on a daily basis, with these amazing people and going, "Oh, wait, I'm part of a giant business that doesn't care at all about this little show or our message or whether we're right or wrong or what flag we're planting where." They couldn't give a rat's ass. All they want is to make money and keep it churning. And so...
And you threatened that.
I threatened that. People were worried the merger might not happen because of what I did. So I want to tell you, when I tell you that grown men from private planes were screaming, who I'd never even heard their names before, that's what it was like.
They screamed at you?
They were all screaming at each other and then screaming at me. And so... that is what I learned. That was part of the fire that I walked through. I don't talk about that part very often. In fact, I don't think I ever have. So we're all learning something here tonight about what media is very much like. There's a lot of stuff at stake that you can't even imagine, and it's actually quite disheartening and strange.
Did they force you to apologize?
Absolutely.
They did.
Of course.
Upon threat of, as in, Sam, you must do this or else?
Of course. And I was very worried about my staff. I was worried about myself, and I was worried about my staff. These people were doing, in my opinion, they were doing the Lord's work, and I didn't want to see everybody lose their job. It was just like, all right, tell me what to do. I'll do it. And I did.
And as you did that piece to camera,
Yeah.
what were you thinking in your head at that time?
I had to compartmentalize what I thought was right versus what I thought was necessary. And I did the job that I thought was necessary.
Did you hate doing it?
Absolutely hated it. Of course I hated it. And I did, there was like I can't even tell if this is interesting to everybody. Anyway, I
They
hope
haven't left.
so. I hope so. I did feel also, a responsibility to members of the audience who felt harmed by it or felt hurt by it. So I was perfectly comfortable kind of speaking to them, but in a much larger way. I was protecting the business of the business and protecting the people who had protected me at the network level, who I really loved, and our relationship was something that I really valued, and I didn't want to harm their careers. So I just gathered it all up, I sucked it up, and I did what needed to be done.
Last question on this. Do you know whether Ivanka ever saw the show?
She did.
Or did she did you have any contact with her during the course of this?
She texted me.
She texted
She
you?
texted me. She did not have my phone number, so I don't know how she got it. And that is your American government dollars at work provided her with my telephone number.
What did she say in the text?
I don't remember. I could find it. I still have it. It was a lovely message.
Did you respond back?
I did not.
Moving on. You Thank you for that. That was very honest. You have been, and you've alluded to it already, you have been one of the very few women in what is overwhelmingly a male landscape of late night television talk.
Yes, overwhelmingly
Why
so.
do you think in 2023 it is still thus?
I don't have the answer for you. I don't know. You know, there have been shows there have been other women-led shows that have come and gone, certainly. They've gone relatively quickly. And I don't really have the answer for that. I do feel lucky to have lasted as long as I did, and I don't discount the importance of that. But I don't see anyone breaking my record anytime soon.
We know there are, because they've said it out loud, we know there are men in comedy and at the executive level who honestly believe women are not funny.
Oh, sure.
Do you think that still pervades, and is that one of the reasons behind this phenomenon?
I think that's a very strong possibility. I think that's true. I think that's true. Yeah, I do think that's, and I do think there's a new, as we move forward into not that we've come here to strictly talk about the media landscape and how it's evolving, but it is really, and I think if you have eyes and ears, you can see that it's evolving into a landscape where it's feeling very anodyne to me, where it felt like the world was opening up to all of these creative new voices. I'm feeling a real shadow coming across the whole industry. When I'm going into meetings with people and I'm hearing that the network mandate is making wallpaper for teenage boys, which is literally what I'm hearing going into meetings, I'm really seeing like a reflexive kind of pulling back from introducing new ideas and new perspectives. I think that's at least true I'm not sure that the same thing is happening here, but it is certainly happening in the United States. And I think that's part of that is just like, how can we get people to watch TV again? For Christ's sake, we don't know. Are teenagers gonna watch TV at all? Can we get the boys watching? Does anybody have anything for them? And that is very much there are a lot of networks right now who are trying to make programming that is just so inoffensive that they just sort of imagine a world of people just like folding laundry and mindlessly keeping the TV on, and that's enough for them. That's not enough for me, but that's enough for a lot of people who are running a lot of networks right now, and I think it's very, it's upsetting. It's draining. It's terrible.
Let me ask you one of those sort of Canada-U.S. questions.
Sure.
Which is to say, you told us you're a joint citizen of both countries.
Yes, my whole family is. I have dual citizenship for my children as well.
Is that right? The
Of
three kids are
course.
all Canadians as well?
They are.
Beautiful.
Yes.
I don't mind hearing that. That's lovely.
Oh, it's good. They
Yeah.
should be.
Good. Some people are thinking we should applaud at this, but we're not sure. Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to, but it is good.
Do you think being Canadian
Yes.
gave you a bit of a different lens through which to watch all of what has transpired over the last decade in the States?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I do. Even when I remember, I can't even remember the specifics of this story. So pardon me, I'm going to paraphrase even myself. But I do recall being at the Daily Show, like early days Daily Show, and it was coming into an intimidating space. It was like mostly men. Certainly all the creatives were men, and all the writers were men, and they were all like, it was just like a who's who of Ivy League schools. It was just like an incredible atmosphere to walk into and be like, I went to Ottawa. Can I also tell jokes? And I literally like had a backpack. You know what I mean? And I remember in a meeting once saying something, it was like something, American imperialism. And then I moved on in the sentence and everyone was like, excuse me? What did you just say? And I was like, American imperialism, South America. And they were flabbergasted to hear those words coming from my mouth. They were so mortally offended by that.
Comedy writers.
Yes, mortally offended. This was, 20 years ago, but mortally offended, defending American imperialism to me in that room. And I was like, wait a second. I know I'm from Canada, but I think it was very helpful actually to be quite frank, we learn history with a more global perspective. It's important to bring an international perspective to the place where you work. It's important I just brought a different perspective to that place. And it was shocking. It was shocking to people. I will not tell you who this was, but we used to do, oh my God, we used to do this thing where we would, if all the correspondents were on the Daily Show one night, if we were all performing at the same time, it was like a tradition to sing the American national anthem before the taping of the show. Unironically, it was just like a thing that they all like to do before the audience. And it was one of my first, I hadn't been there for too long, and they were like, oh, this is great, we're all on the show tonight. So what we do is we sing the American national anthem. It's like unironic, it's like just like really fun, and everybody loves it, and whatever. We do it before taping. And I was like, oh, great, I don't know it. And if you want to talk about something that was mortally offensive to everybody who heard that, they were like, what do you mean you don't know it? And I was like, I don't know your national anthem because I didn't grow up in your country. I know mine. Do you want me to sing mine? And they were so actually angry that I didn't know the words to their song. I mean, I know it now. I immediately went and I learned it. I had to go learn it. I had to go learn it.
Did you have any friends there at all when you
Yes,
were
I
working?
did. Yes, I did.
Okay, I'm
and
glad.
I love all those people.
Okay,
I really
I'm glad to hear
do.
that.
I really do.
Now that you've had a chance to work and live down there a bit, what
Yeah.
have you concluded is the biggest difference between Canadians and Americans?
Well, I was telling your producer this the other day, and
Sandra Jonas.
Yes, she's incredible. I do think that obviously there's so much shared experience and shared everything and shared knowledge and shared cultural products, and we have such a porous border, and we're always shopping for cheap polo shirts in Buffalo, but I do think from having lived in both places, what I do think makes it is very definitive, and it's hard to even talk about because it's hard to talk about. It is a little bit ephemeral, but I do think that one big difference comes down to access to healthcare. And I think that sounds so ridiculous in this big room full of people who are like, what did you just say? But I actually think that kind of culturally, as I experience it, Americans, there's that, you're just like driving all the time towards something. Everybody's working, nobody takes a break, everybody's just like driving, pushing. And I think that people carry an invisible backpack of not knowing what the future holds, not feeling supported by a social safety net that can support everyone. That is such a burden on a really DNA level that people are always pushing and always trying and striving. And it is, there is a difference. I think that you can't define it necessarily, but you can feel it in the air. I think, everything's topsy-turvy there. You can have a change, the administration changes and your whole life can change, just like that. All the rules are different. Your rights can be taken away from you, and that's real, and it's a dramatic shift. People don't have health care. People get taken off the health care rolls all the time. Things fall out. You can get cancer and go bankrupt. You can lose your house. Like, the ground is always shifting, and that creates a kind of like national, like an angst, you know what I mean? Like an agita. Mm-hmm. And then I sometimes call my family, I talk to my sister-in-law who lives in Bowmanville, and I'm like, what are you guys doing today? What's going on? You know what I mean? I'm like, bringing some like real New York energy to the conversation, and she's like, it's family day, we're off. And I'm like, oh. Right, family day. That sounds nice. You can take a day off. Oh. And that, I think, is how I characterize the difference. I think it's again, ephemeral. It's kind of like up here in the cloud, but I think it rains down in really interesting ways, and I feel it.
Okay. I should say, since we're in Ottawa, you know why we have Family Day, right? We have Family Day because one of your MPPs here, the member for Ottawa South, about 20 years ago, whose name was? Dalton McGuinty, who became Premier, decided we should have Family Day, and that's why we've got it.
Family Day is good.
So
everybody
says
should
Sam
have
B.
Family Day.
Family Day, an endorsement from Sam B. Okay. We're in the home stretch here, and I'm going to give everybody a chance in a few minutes. We got microphones, I think, in the hall here, right? We're going to take questions for a few minutes after Sam and I have finished up here.
I've been speaking so passionately, I'm really sweaty.
I think we need to finish up by looking forward at what's about to transpire south of the border.
Sure.
Starting with the Democrats.
Yep.
And I guess we're going to start with Bobby Kennedy's son is challenging Joe Biden for the Democratic presidential nomination.
Yeah. Talk about platforming.
Okay.
Talk about platforming some bad ideas.
What do we think of that?
Listen, he's an anti-vaxxer. He is being given, and running for president is really super cool if you want to elevate some of your bad ideas and sell a lot of books. And I think he's among those people. I think he's elevating some ideas that are actually, frankly, not good. And I'm not in favor of that, but it's happening. Someone here loves him, and that's great for you, but I don't.
We got one applause. Somebody clapped.
We got one person who's in support, but I do not share that.
Does Joe Biden deserve re-election in your view?
I mean, listen, is he my favorite candidate of all? Absolutely not. I definitely don't like anyone on the GOP side of things. So if that's the bar, then absolutely 100%.
Do you, or I guess I should say, how much do you worry about an 81-year-old seeking re-election?
I don't love it. Does anyone love it? But I think the alternatives, I mean, sometimes you have to, the alternatives are dire. The alternatives are scary.
All of them?
So, yeah. Currently, yes. Yes.
If Joe Biden, for whatever reason,
Sure.
decides not to run again or can't run again, what other Democrat would you like to see have the presidential nomination?
I don't know. These are tough questions. Actually, I don't know. I don't think anyone's really not Bobby Kennedy Jr. If you please. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really throwing my hat in the ring for anyone at this moment. I'm kind of out of it.
It's not going to be you.
It's not going to be me. I can't.
Just check.
I was
Oh, that's
born
right.
at the Toronto Western Hospital, don't you know?
Right. So you can't run by
I
law.
can't run by law.
What a shame.
No, that's not a shame. That's a blessing. Who wants that job? You have to be a megalomaniac to want that job. There has to be something wrong inside you to run for president.
Last question.
Something went terribly wrong in your childhood. Something inside you is broken. There's a hole in your soul. Okay.
Last question before we start to take some questions from this audience, and that is, if Donald Trump gets the nomination and wins the presidency,
I'm blanching. Okay, yep.
do you and your family move back to Toronto?
We are in it to win it. Listen, we straddle all worlds. We have all of our entire family lives in Canada, but I'm not going to flee. I mean, I have, my children live there. They're going to college. They're in school. So I don't need to join the chorus of people who feel the need to state, as a matter of fact, that they will flee. Do I have the option to flee? Yes. Will I preserve that option? Of course.
Okay. Sir,
Samantha,
you have the first question.
Thank you, Samantha. Welcome back to Ottawa.
Thank you.
We're known as the town that fun forgot, but I'm not sure that's entirely true. I mean, but you were quoted one place saying that you never really made your career, or you never really had a lot of success in television and film in Canada, but you go to the United States and on a huge major platform, you make it. Was there some kind of magic thing? Did you change? Did you find your voice? What was it that allowed you to be able to trigger into that very much larger stage?
I think, to be perfectly frank, I was working in Toronto. I did a lot of commercials. I did a bunch of. You've seen me stare down the barrel of a Tim Hortons bagel. Like, I've done a lot of commercial work, not a lot of film and television, so I wasn't really working a lot. I was doing a lot of comedy, a lot of live comedy, which was an incredible training ground. But it really just took a single person to believe that I had what it took. And that person for me was Jon Stewart. He literally saw my audition and was like, oh, I like this. I will hire you. And so it was just that one opportunity came to me in the States. Once I was doing that job, my husband and I we're like the Von Trapp family singers. We see it as a family business. And so we made so many efforts. We worked so hard to do anything we could to give our career legs, to keep writing, to keep trying, to keep working, just so that if all else failed, we had penetrated something so that we had legs to our career that weren't necessarily tied to anyone else. And so it was just that one person gave me an opportunity, and then us grinding it out for 20 more years after that. It's a great question.
Thank you.
Stuff.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Next, please.
Hey, Samantha, thanks for
Hi.
coming to Ottawa. It's great.
Oh,
Great having you
good.
here. Just wanted to know, career-wise, biggest regret looking in hindsight, and biggest thing saying, hey, I'm glad I took this opportunity because it really changed my life.
Biggest regret? I'm trying to think actually, because even things that were maybe regrettable, I've done terrible jobs. I played like a live action Sailor Moon at the CNE. Do you know what I'm saying? And I don't even regret that because that's where I met my husband, and he married me after seeing that. And he performed in that with me as Tuxedo Mask. And
It's not a regret. That's one of the best things
It's
in
a
hindsight,
joy.
right?
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that there's zero photographic evidence of that. Chef's kiss. I did it for like a year. Anyway,
Best thing you ever did?
best thing I ever did? I think the best thing I ever did was my show. And also the best thing that I ever helped to do was this show called The Detour, which my husband produced and directed and acted in, and it is so funny. And that is something that I regret that The Detour never got the attention and the due that it deserved, because it is such a good show. It is such a funny show. You can see it on Hulu. Oh, you don't get Hulu here. Oh my Lord. But it is great. And so I do regret that we just couldn't break that out. But I can't have regrets. It's like even a terrible job brought me like, put those like little bricks of like fire or anxiety, whatever it is. They were all the ingredients of tenacity that you need to work in this business.
We haven't said his name yet, so we shall. Jason Jones
Jason
is her
Jones.
husband.
Yes.
Born in Hamilton, Ontario,
Hamilton. Yeah,
where all the best people are from.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes, please.
Hi, Sam.
Hi.
Such an honor. Thank you so much for coming. I'm a real big fan of your recent work in your podcasts.
Oh, thank you.
In particular, the attention that you bring to women's health issues with Dr. Jen Gunter.
Dr. Gunter is incredible. She is a powerhouse.
I'm listening to the Menopause Manifesto right now
Are
because of
you?
you.
It's such a good
thank you.
book.
My question is your reasoning behind making those episodes such a feature regarding women's health and women's issues. Is it more, do you think, politically motivated, or do you view it more as just a necessity?
I think that's a great question. I just viewed it as a necessity. Like the moment that the show, that Full Frontal launched, and we really didn't, and I want to be clear, at The Daily Show, I worked there until 2015. We really didn't talk about abortion on that show. It was just not a topic of conversation. It just was not a comfort zone. It came up in little tiny pieces, but the one thing that I knew that I wanted to do on my show was to, oh my God, hi! We went to college together. Oh my God, okay, all right. There's a lot of, okay. Oh my God, Craig, I'm so excited to see you. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. I can't believe you're here. Okay, I'm crying. I'm so happy to see your face. Just give me 1 sec. Oh
You
my
know
God.
him?
Yes. Very, very well. Yes, very, very well. There's only like one, I could run off the stage right now and hug him. I just need a second to gather my thoughts. Okay, so I want to answer your question. So like, reproductive justice is something we started doing immediately on the show because I knew that it was, well, I thought we only had the 6 episodes for one thing, and I was like, let's just say some shit about this very important subject. And then reproductive justice was just it's the focus of my life. It's very important. It's a right that obviously has been taken away. And we knew, when we started the show and immediately started talking about reproductive justice, like not all the time, like not every episode or anything like that, but it came up frequently because our show was like the Cassandra in the room that was like, this is going away. They're coming after Roe. It's going to be taken away. Please pay attention to this issue. And so for like 6 years of the show, we were like, hello, like trying to ring the bell and get everybody thinking about it and strategizing and working. And then it was taken away, and that's the last episode of the show was the day before the Roe was overturned. And it was so distressing, but we could see it coming for years and years, So it was a necessity to talk about it, a necessity personally to talk about it, and just a part of using the platform to speak from the heart in the most authentic way possible? Great question.
Okay,
Hi.
before you ask your question, I think we need a little background here. Who are you, and how do you know her?
I'm Craig Holchu. We went to University of Ottawa together.
When's the last time you saw her?
In Vancouver, right?
No, when we were in New York.
Oh yeah, we went to Landmark.
Dinner, yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
How
That's
long
so
ago?
funny.
A little while ago, yeah.
Yeah, a little while
5,
ago.
6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Do you know what? I just walked down your old street. I was like, I can't remember where Craig lived. Oh my God, that's so funny. I'm so happy to see you.
It's not what this show's about, I don't think.
No, it's not. You can. I feel like this is to tape, right? Like you can edit this part out.
Not a
Part where I
chance.
saw
Not
Craig
a
and
chance.
cried. Okay, fake news.
Okay, Craig, what's up?
So my question is you've been in the U.S. for 20 years. You've seen kind of the slippery slope.
Sure.
So from a political standpoint, what advice do you give Canada?
I know you guys are on quite a journey yourselves.
We are on quite a journey.
I don't think that I have advice to give. I don't think I have advice to give anyone because we're on a very particular decline and it's still continuing. It's not like we've figured it out. It's not like we've figured out how to wrestle with these ideas or push bad ideas into the sea. They're just increasing in volume and the push toward and the movement toward authoritarian ideas is chugging along at full speed. So I don't. I wish you well. Good luck in your journey.
Thank you, Craig.
Oh my God!
Hi, Sam. I'm the guy going after Craig.
It's good. I'm still gonna cry.
I have that effect on women a lot. Big fan. Thank you for all you've done for me in terms of my comedy, my time, my delivery. My question is going to be more sincere than that. Comedy's role in many ways is to hold truth to power and to punch up. From court gestures to full frontal, it's always been that way. And I spend a lot of time, I spend a lot of my work, I spend a lot of thinking about how we as democracy and communities are in trouble. And I firmly believe we're not going to get better until we can talk. There were people in trucks only a kilometer away who
Right.
weren't doing great things, and it certainly was frustrating, but I also recognized things will only get better if we can have community and we can talk and we can actually understand and respect each other. If comedy is the place to bring us together, great, but if
Right.
it's not, is it academia or institutions or community? How do we come together in a way that can be respectful and we can talk?
I don't have the answer to that question either. I don't quite think it's comedy, but I definitely think community is where it can start. I don't know. Like in my own experience, community conversations and people in your world are the most effective communications. Like actually living in the world and talking to people in your community is a way to, like I continue to meet a lot of people. I met people literally 2 days ago in South Carolina who were like, oh, I thought you were a she-beast. And I'm like, no, no. They were like, oh, I thought you were an 8-foot tall, I thought you were like, like the Ann Coulter of the left. And I'm like, no, I'm just a lady who had an opportunity to speak her mind, So when people meet, it's so disarming to meet people who you can, that's the only way that I have personally found. If we treat America like a giant Thanksgiving table, or if we treat our worlds as giant Thanksgiving tables where we're all forced to at least agree about how delicious the stuffing is, maybe that's the solution. I don't know. It's a very pat answer. I'm not sure.
I think I have seen surveys which suggest that people, everyday people, are actually more in the center of the political spectrum.
They are.
But cable television sort of
It would suggest
Yes.
that everybody is very
in their corners.
But I used to actually have to tell my staff this all the time. Twitter is not real life. Twitter is not real life. It's not real life. If you go out in the world, which I was kind of the only one who did, was go out and talk to people. Myself, my correspondents would go out and kind of separate and talk to people like in their worlds. They're not thinking about it all the time. They actually have concerns. They have bills to pay. They have lives. They have kids in school. They have other concerns other than the gigantic ideological divide. And that is true. That is true.
Yes, please.
So thank you. This has been amazing. My question actually kind of stems on that. So your friend kind of mentioned the slippery slope, and how do you kind of guard against the polarization? So you mentioned that your audience being largely Democrat, but how would you reach across to maybe touch people that you wouldn't be able to otherwise?
I mean, I don't know that, we had 21 minutes a week. Like, we just didn't have, I had to imagine that my show, foundationally was about catharsis more than, there was actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, because when we all thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win the election and we have the first female president and stuff, I had all of these ideas. I had a whole whiteboard of ideas that was just me magnanimously reaching out across the aisle to how do we heal the divide in our nation? And then the moment that what happened, we just, it was just like a fire hose of abuse on all of my social channels. It was just oh my God. And our whole lives changed and the world really changed. So I'm so sorry to not have a satisfying answer. I'm just not sure that a comedy show can achieve that. And I don't know. That's probably you have to do that. That's for you. That's your job. Hi.
Yes, please.
Hi. Thank you so much for all the commentary, and I also want to compliment you on your outfit. You look
Thank
fabulous.
you.
I love it.
I love this blazer. This is one of my faves.
Very power suit.
Thank you.
What about my outfit?
This is a power suit.
You always look sharp.
Thank you. Okay.
So my question's a bit twofold. The first part of it being, in the age of, I would say, cancel culture, what does freedom of speech mean to you? You brought up a few instances of different female comedians, yourself included, who've been scrutinized for some of the things they've said. So my question is, what does freedom of speech mean to you? And do you feel there's more criticisms as a female comedian speaking out on really important issues?
I do. It's a different kind of. It's a different kind of criticism for sure. It takes a different. The tenor of it is different, definitely. I do think that there's so many really world famous, very rich comedians like to complain about cancel culture, and I think that is very silly because with that huge platform and those riches, it's hard to find a way to complain about people not hearing your voice when you're standing on Netflix telling everyone what your complaints are. That's not really being canceled. So.
Is this a reference to anybody in particular?
No, not at all. But for freedom of speech for me means that I get to say what I would like to say, and I would expect that if what I'm saying is offensive to people, that they will let me hear about it. But I'm free to say the things that I want to say. If I happen to have reprehensible ideas, people will let me know. Mm-hmm. And I should expect that because people are free to respond to your freedom of speech. And if you have bad ideas, that's up to you.
Do you feel as free today to say what you want, or are you more concerned that cancel culture will mean you won't get that next gig?
I feel more free than I've ever felt in my life.
Really? Okay.
I'm beholden to no one. I say what I want now. I don't. No one pays me. No, I'm doing my touring show. I'm saying what I want. There's nobody's. I don't have to pass it through anybody.
You have sponsors on your podcast.
I do have sponsors. Yeah, I
So?
guess. Oh, I guess that's true. I guess I can't say that. Olive and June manicures aren't nice. They're very nice, but I'm actually very careful. I'm actually careful about the sponsors that sponsor the show. I'm careful to actually think that their products are good. I'm very careful and ethical about those things because it's meaningful to me. I don't really want to be. I don't want to do my podcast and then Remington does an ad for semi-automatic weapon. You have to be knowledgeable and you have to be very specific and you have to be intentional. And that's how I want to run with it for the rest of my existence until I draw my last breath. I don't want people to tell me what to say. In fact, I've pulled out of things. I will say that I've had jobs and pulled out of them because I felt like somebody was going to give me notes in a way that I was like, I don't want to, why should I listen to this? I was like, I've come too far, I've done too much. I speak my mind. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. You don't have to accept my entertainments. It's totally cool. I've chosen not to work with outlets that I felt were going to try to kind of like form me in a way that was not pleasing. I can't do that anymore. It's just not a part of the program moving forward. And if that means that I go and tend my bees for the rest of my life, and I do have bees because I have to, then I'm okay with that too. I'm really okay with that. I love it.
Sam Bee has bees.
I do, and they're awesome. It's like the most beautiful meditation. And they make the most delicious honey that I steal from them. I leave them a lot, don't worry.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, first, Miigwech for being here, and many thanks for making this a free event for people who could not afford to come. This is an honor for many of us. And I just want to, thank you. I mean, I don't think she paid for it, but still, thank you. But I wanted to, as an Indigenous woman, watching things during people talking about rights and freedoms during COVID was a highly fascinating subject. And I know you've tackled intersectionality on your show in terms of everyone was talking about their rights, but in the meantime, Indigenous rights are still ignored, disability rights are still ignored, basic income. And I'm curious from your travels, not just living in the States, what are your thoughts versus freedoms versus privileges and how that applies to ethnocentricity? I know it's a big question for a comedian, but I just thought I'd give it to you.
Yeah, how can I answer that specifically? I mean, intersectionality, and we talked about these intersections constantly at the show, because our process of like creating a 21-minute television show was very much a free marketplace of ideas, within kind of the structures of normal television. And so these issues came up all the time, and we tried to do, we would do a piece about because it's not just like reproductive care, it's access, access to that care is a huge barrier for tons and tons of people. So we were kind of always trying to touch on issues of access, how do you access. Okay, it's one thing to have reproductive rights in the state where you live, but if you don't have access to that, if you actually can't get to those appointments that exist 6 hours away from where you live, is there really truly reproductive care in the state where you live? We did a piece on dental care because people don't have access to basic dental care in the United States. We did a lot of segments and tried to bring that up and tried to elucidate that in as many ways as we could within the structures of a comedy show. You're also dealing with, you also find yourself, we had a whole, this is so not funny at all, but we had a whole segment planned about the foster care system in the state of Mississippi, which is broken. Just a terrible, it's so broken, it's broken beyond imagination. And we just found that we also would have to find a comedy path into a story. So that's the trickiest puzzle, you know what I mean? So you're making this big puzzle of a show, and you're tackling all these big issues and trying so hard to bring as many perspectives into it as humanly possible, and but then also you have to be able to carve a joke path through it. And that, I'm not sure, I don't think I'm answering your question in the least, but but this is something that we wrestled with a lot. And we had, we did stories about First Nations communities, and it was really tricky, and we did it, and it was really great and very beneficial. And I don't know if they touched people. I don't know what the impact was. I don't think it's always the hardest thing to care so much about a story and not be able to make any jokes about it, so you can't do it. And so we backburnered a lot of stories too that we just couldn't find a path through. But I assure you, it's very much a part of, I'm just not sure how much they're talking about intersectionality and disability rights at the other late night shows. But I know we did. I know we did all the time. It came up all the time.
Yes, sir.
Hi there, Sam. Very nice to have you here in Ottawa. And
Thank you.
Steve, I'm born and raised Hamiltonian. I
Hamiltonian.
actually
Here,
grew
here.
up on Hamilton Mountain, a couple blocks away from Hillfield.
Oski
So I know
Wee Wee,
Hamilton.
Oski
Hamilton.
Wawa.
Did you hear that?
Thank
Sorry?
you.
She said the magic
I
words.
did.
You did?
She said Oski Wee Wee.
I did.
Oh, Oski Wee Wee, that's right. So the question I want to ask, Sam, as we know, right now it's Pride Month. It's a time of celebration for queer and trans people. And you know, there's No, this is a time of celebration and a time of supporting the incredible activism that's gone on there. It hasn't quite been the case this year. We've seen right across the border, even here in our city, queer and trans people being under attack, where there's been attacks on our rights, attacks on trans people down the States, laws and different things that have happened right across our country and down south, where people don't quite feel so safe. So, you know, it's not a time where, you know, as much as this is a month of joy, this is also a time of hurt. What would your message be to queer and trans people who right now are trying to get through this difficult time, to celebrate this month, to try to find the joy that's still there, and to try to find joy in community, and to try to find peace and love among the people that are around them?
I don't know that I have a great message other than we are so with you. We're so behind you, so with you, and we feel like it is so painful to watch what is happening. And this is what I mean when I talk about platforming bad ideas. You know, these terrible policies and ideas and laws that they're trying to pass, they spread like a cancer that is metastasizing across America, certainly here as well. And you feel like people get ideas from other, they hear about it, they go like, we should do that in our community. They're like, and I hope that you can take that moment to celebrate because there is joy, and you have to find, in all of this, you have to find joy. Like the fog has to clear and you have to find that joy, and so we are with you in celebrating, and also with you in like trying to do our very goddamn damnedest to fight this hatred, and we all have to be in it, and we all have to be allies and fight hatred together. We just have to. We just have to.
Yes, sir.
Well, Steve, I want to say I love your outfit.
Thank you.
Pink socks,
Nailed
coordinates
it.
very nice.
Yeah.
I
Look at
waited
these-
long enough to
oh,
hear
yeah.
that. My
Exactly,
God. All
I
right.
can tell. Sam, I think I was a copywriter in Toronto. I'm pretty sure I cast you in like a Canada's Wonderland radio commercial or
Oh,
something.
nice.
So
Yeah.
you did
Oh my
great.
God. Oh, okay. Yes. Yep. Thank you.
And I wound up running for office sometimes. I was even on the agenda talking to Steve about that. And so I was wondering, it's Josh Rackless.
Oh, Josh, hi.
Yeah. And so I was wondering.
Josh, hang on. You ran for the Green Party, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. I think my daughter volunteered for your campaign.
She did. You came out and she helped me hand out I made little handmade flyers cut out of a cereal box because it's, eco-friendly, and she helped me hand them out at this.
Josh, I'm so sorry to say this, especially in front of this lovely audience. Oh, and now I'm afraid to say it. My daughter finished doing that volunteer gig, and then she came back and she had all kinds of ideas for how you could be a better candidate. I'm sorry to say it.
I don't remember getting the email with those suggestions. Maybe I need to talk to her again.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
I do need a campaign manager. But on that topic, I was wondering if, I know you can't run for president,
No.
but there are other roles. Schwarzenegger became governor of California. Have you thought of running? Either California or the Liberal Party of Ontario needs a leader, like who knows?
Oh my God. I cannot say that it is not on the agenda. I like to just sit back and criticize. But I actually wouldn't rule it out in the future. I don't know. I don't know what the contours of that would be. Not sure.
You know Cynthia Nixon?
I don't know her.
You don't know her?
Yeah, I don't know her
Okay.
personally.
I mean, there is a bit of a history in the United States of people who
I
have
know.
made their living doing what you do,
I know.
running for higher office,
Okay.
starting with Ronald
Okay,
Reagan.
I'll do
So,
it.
you know.
God, jeez. Okay, fine.
You have thought about it, though, at some point.
I have not seriously thought about it, but I think now that I'm like semi-retired, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I have more time to think about what the next phase of life looks like, and so maybe there could be something there. I mean, if they keep trying to ban books, then maybe it's time to get involved.
Hey, Sam.
Hi.
You have the last question of tonight.
I do. Tina says I have the last one. I hope it's a good one. Steve, I met your daughter too. I don't know if you remember this. She pulled me in at Indigo, and she's like, you got to sign, my dad has to sign a book for you, because you guys, I was like last at a book signing at Indigo.
I remember that.
Anyways, Sam, I just wanted to ask, it's a bit of a nasty thing to do to you, I guess, but
Okay.
because you have, openly stated you have a comedy of viewpoints, which can, in some lenses, be looked at as an opportunity to get entrenched in things. And we Canadians, there's a lot of, I think, current and recovering politicos in this room that are a little worried about that tribal, toxic, polarization problem.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask you the question I often ask them, which is, what's the last time you changed your mind about something, and what made you do it?
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's so great. That's so great. Okay, well, let me set the scene for you, if you don't mind, by also saying that I am in the middle of perimenopause. So I can't remember anything and have the worst brain fog humanly possible. So that is a question that I would need I would need to really, what I'm gonna do is have a great answer for you at 2 o'clock in the morning when I wake up in a cold sweat. But that is a great question that I'm gonna think about for a really long time without, I'm like struggling to think of it, but my mind changes all the time. I change my mind a lot, actually. And I don't mind, I don't have a problem changing my mind. I don't know why people don't agree to, I don't know why politicians and leaders in particular seem so afraid to change their mind, because, I mean, going back to like when John Kerry ran for president and he changed his mind about something and they were like, flip flop, and it became like a whole, it just resonated through the world that he was like a flip flopper, and that was a bad thing, when he really just changed his mind about something that was very important to him. I think more people should admit when they think that they were wrong about something and they want to say it out loud. I'm wrong a lot. And I'm trying to think of a specific example of when I was wrong, but I know they exist. I feel like I just changed my mind about something really recently and I can't remember it. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. It's a really good question. I'll blurt it out as soon as I think of it. But there was something political that I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, okay, well, I see this issue differently now. Oh, I didn't realize that this was like a deeper part of this, often, like, it's like when you go out sometimes you go out, and I'm sure you experience this a lot, you go into an interview with like a lot of prep, and people have given you a lot of prep. They give you documents, they're like, this person believes this, these are all the things they think this is their background, this is what we think that their response will be to this statement, or like, we think that the conversation can go this way, here's your prep doc. And then you sit down with the person, you've read all the prep docs, you've done your own research, you've watched a documentary about them, you've listened to them speak in their own words, and you get there and you sit there with them and they tell you everything that is completely different, that you didn't know, that wasn't in the prep doc, and you're like, well, why didn't I know that secret ingredient? And it changes your whole perspective on them and how they came to the idea that they had. So I think this is a part of that, and oh my God, I was literally stumped, but I appreciate what you're saying, and I do change my mind a lot, and I encourage people to change their minds and unentrench. I unentrench from things, not reproductive justice, but other stuff.
Well, here's where I got to do a bit of housekeeping before we finish off the show. So tell all your friends and family that you have just witnessed the most extraordinary 90 minutes in the history of television.
Incredible.
And that they have to watch. Simple as that. We all at TVO want to thank you for spending your Sunday with us. We want to thank the crew who took this absolutely magnificent space and turned it into a bit of a makeshift TV studio here. We want to thank the great folks at Carleton Dominion Chalmers Center because their hospitality was first-rate today. We want to thank Red Wilson, who is the head of the eponymously named Wilson Foundation, because somebody referenced the fact that it was free today. It was free today because of Red Wilson's generosity, and we're grateful to him. And finally, I know all of you want to join me in thanking Samantha Bee for coming back to Ottawa today. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
That was a joy.
Oh, it was so joyful.
That was a joy.
I loved
Here
it.
we go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
TVO Today Live is made possible by the generous support of the Wilson Foundation.